This week is a GreatBase review, filling you in on the happenings, and also a road trip review.
Episode
road trip
55.
Yeah, 55.
Double fives. Yeah, it was fun. Go back to Boca. Andy and I had a number of things to talk about. So one of the best ways to do that is go on a road trip.
Just hop in a Odyssey minivan, 2014. Sit back, enjoy the turnpike.
With Boca Raton, for me, that's my adopted hometown. Upstate New York boy goes to Boca Raton. Got an airplane when I was 19 years old, almost 20. Didn't know one person. Had a little money in my pocket. Actually flew to Fort Lauderdale. And I was told to go to Boca. It was in 1974. And I got in one of those minivans to go from Fort Lauderdale Airport to Boca. And the mission was I was going to work nights, take the role of starving artist, hit some tennis balls. There's no more telephone booths around, but I was dropped off on the Deerfield Beach Boca Raton line. And for me, that's where it started from a tennis standpoint, right next to the Camino Real, the Boca Raton Hotel and Club.
If you've never been to Boca Raton, Florida, just think about Tijuana, Mexico. It's almost the same. Very similar.
I've been to Tijuana.
Except with a little bit more money or a lot.
Actually, for the longest time in my life, I thought the biggest contrast I'd ever experienced was going from San Diego to Tijuana.
San Diego.
But years ago, going from West Berlin to East Berlin.
Yeah.
That was pretty drastic.
Yeah. Like one window in a house.
So if our listeners were in Orlando. We're 5.5 miles from the USTA, the USTA National Campus, Mecca of tennis, 100 tennis courts. Yeah. So it's only about 2.5 hours down to Boca. Of course, when you think of Boca, Palm Beach County, that whole area from Miami to Palm Beach is just one big city. I think back when I was in Boca, those people who know that area, Florida Atlantic was way west. Now it's way east.
Yeah.
And
we went pretty far west.
Goes and goes and goes. But let's touch upon our situation with Andy and Leo.
Let's do that.
His better half. It was great to have you here for the time. It's been almost 2 years. I've known Andy for more than 20. But our goal of trying to improve tennis teaching, I would say that we've gone from being a snowflake to a snowball. More people know about the GreatBase now. I have to thank you and Leo for that. We want to keep it going. But tell us about going back to Germany. Beautiful wife is from Germany.
Yeah, to make a long story short.
Short story long.
Yep. We're going back to Dusseldorf, Germany. My wife says that a lot more elegantly than I do. Dusseldorf, the way she says it. But yeah, we're going back to Dusseldorf, Germany. She's going to be back in the company that she was working with prior to helping us out here or being here in Florida. And I'm going to do some coaching. I'm going to work with Henry Squire, who's been in the GreatBase family for a long time. You've worked with him since he was 6, I believe. But he was playing recently at Wake Forest, and so he's now playing professionally. And I'm going to help him out, and his father, David Squire, and then I'll be that'll be my home base. So I'll still continue to do some things here with GreatBase, but also do my own coaching and things there as well.
With
in Deutschland,
I'm the matchmaker. Ran a camp many years ago. We had 25 kids. David Squire was great to host it. Nice to host it for us. And
where skill and opportunity meet.
And that's where Andy met his wife. With Dusseldorf, it's not that far to get in the car and drive to Paris. Belgium's right there.
Yeah.
Holland's right there.
Pretty close by.
And I would say that, I always thought there was a lot of great tennis up in Hamburg. I spent a lot of time in Germany. But I think a lot of really nice clubs in the Dusseldorf area.
A bunch. It feels like there's like 100 within a 50-mile radius.
We're going to try it for sure. That's probably the wrong word. I'm always telling juniors, don't say, I'm trying.
Try is a weak word.
I'm trying. No, I'm trying. That's the way. That's another form of saying I'm crying.
Or Yoda.
We will keep the podcast going.
Which means I'll continue to have no sleep.
with
It's no problem.
no.
I was just going to say, Yoda, there is no try, only do, but you've never seen Star Wars. I mean, that's just it's a little bit un-American.
A little boring.
It's
Boring individual.
It's not, no, it's not boring. We just need to make that happen.
Never been to a concert either. A real big concert.
Is that for real?
I one time was scheduled to go listen to Men at Work.
Oh, yeah. I come from a land down under.
But I've knock on wood, I go a long time without getting sick. But
Man.
a little under the weather, so I didn't go listen to the band from down under.
Well, on the way back from the road trip, not to jump ahead, but I popped in a little Neil, and you were kind of half falling asleep. It was late. And then you, after the first song was done, it was like Out on the Weekend, something like that. And you go, that was nice. I like that song.
Jazz Singer, you got to watch the movie.
Man.
I know you're a movie buff. Have you seen Jazz Singer?
Jazz Singer.
Neil Diamond.
Oh, I don't think so.
No, you're listening to Neil Young.
Yeah, not Neil Diamond. Neil Young.
You said Neil Diamond.
Real music. Yeah.
Did you just have a senior moment? I know.
Did I really say Neil Diamond? There's no
you-
way I did. I think you're just hearing that.
You're getting close
Well,
to
we'll
five.
see.
You're getting
We'll
close
see.
to 5-0, Fitzell.
Oh my gosh.
With and for us, change is good. We have a nice setup here, Happy Lane, but we've thought about it and want to have a base definitely during the school year, the winter months, where the competition is. And we're in Boca, we're up in Orlando, and again, I think the USTA. Kyle Lacroix.
Mm-hmm.
I need to take a lesson from Kyle and be more and more diplomatic. The USTA is doing great things. I mean, especially with events, but the tennis, I think eventually it will happen here, but there's no comparison between what's going on from a competitive standpoint in Greater Orlando than it is in that Palm Beach County area. I take it back to Boca, but it's really, that whole area. You can go from Pompano to Deerfield, Boca, Delray, Boynton Beach. And then obviously, I mean, you get down that far south, you're really close to Miami. So Happy Lane. One is we set up a facility, and we think it's a nice stage to launch, to produce free educational tennis content.
Yeah.
But with your work on social media, more people know about us, and we're just inundated with the people who want to work with us. And then also, because of the pandemic, so many kids are now used to homeschooling. We have a lot of people that want to come and spend more time with us.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to have an outlet where there's many different options we have. It's not set in stone because right now we have to organize and sell Happy Lane. But I think the real estate market, for a number of reasons, is, as they say, a hot market.
Yeah. We definitely rolled with the punches. I mean, the original plan was, not exactly what happened, but we made it work and did some different things than planned, and some things didn't happen according to plan. But
we're talking to some friends from Northern Cal today that
it's like a tennis match. You got to adapt. You got to adjust.
The friends from NorCal, as your wife came down and said hello, and with it's been 2 summers, with no European swing. For many years, almost 20 years. It was 20 consecutive summers going to spend time in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
We also are looking at the possibility of a destination resort in the summer, because we still want to have families come and spend time with us, and where they come in and what we would say is they learn the GreatBase pathway or the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So change is good, but right now it's a matter of just organizing Happy Lane, put it on the market, and I think we'll, in short order, by the 1st of October, be spending some weekends, or most weekends, down in South Florida. I think we could talk about, we did pop into, not sure exactly what it's called. It's a county facility in Palm Beach, but it's the Rick Macy Tennis Center. So we popped out and watched a UTR event. We've been sending players down to play in the UTR events. I ran into Liam Draxel, Canadian. Actually sent him a text, called him up, but just talked to him briefly. I always tell people when I go to a tennis facility, I'm going to run into someone I know. I was with Jeff Lewis one time, and we went to 10 countries over the course of 4 months. And I said, Lewis, I'm pretty sure no matter where we go, that's how small the tennis world is.
Yeah.
We're in Slovenia, wherever. I one time was in Moscow, and this was in 1987. And what's the name of the gentleman with fuzzy elbows? Hamilton?
Will Hamilton, yeah.
So Ian Hamilton. So Ian Hamilton was with Nike. Great personality, great guy. And I was endorsed by Nike. So I'm in Moscow, and my trip was endorsed by the ITF. It was when Doug McCurdy was with the ITF. And I can remember I took my CompuTennis machine at the airport. Not only did I have to take all my clothes off, true story, like a scene from a movie. And
a horror film.
I'm in my skivvies there, and they take CompuTennis, the Russian authorities, dressed in uniformed soldiers. They take the CompuTennis apart, they put it back together. It really
with
was
a tracking device.
But so anyway, this was 1987, and so I'm told by my oldest brother, who had spent a lot of time in hockey, a lot of time in Russia, he said, just call this number and just say the name of the hotel, nothing else, nothing by like hi Nick.
Yeah,
just say the hotel name, and they will find you. Yeah, okay. And so a gentleman came by, and he took me over, spoke very, very good English. I went with a girlfriend at that time and an assistant pro, and but what happened when I went through the border control, they didn't take all these magazines I had. So here's this hockey agent, hockey manager, and he comes up to the hotel room. He has to dress like a Westerner, and he can't let anybody know he's Russian because he's in this hotel with all the Westerners. And I talk about paranoia. I can remember he was so concerned about sneaking the magazines out of the hotel and no one seeing him leaving with them, and trying to find a way to do that. Tucking some, in his pants and in his jacket, in his sleeve, and it was quite a few magazines.
What year was this? I mean,
87. So,
87.
So they take us to a tennis park, and people are still playing with wooden rackets, and I just hear this, Smith. I go, no. Smith, Steve Smith. And it was Ian Hamilton. So, there was a crowd, and we approach one another, and he's with Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. And he looks down, and
That's
I'm wearing
a good connection.
And I'm wearing, he introduces me to Phil, and he goes, yeah, Steve's one of our Nike pros, and I am wearing Nike clothes. But he looks down at my shoes, and I had been given instructions by my brother not to do anything for exchange for Western products for any rubles. So I gave my Nike shoes to this street entrepreneur, two of them actually, and they took us all over, like to the Moscow Zoo. The Moscow Circus, which I'd seen in New York, but to see the Moscow Circus in Moscow, Gorky Park, and so. But anyway, Phil Knight looked down at my shoes, and he was look on his face.
What did you have on? Do you remember?
They were an old beat up pair of Capas, a shoe that you had to tie twice.
Oh man, I remember Capas. You could change out the little plastic things on the side, the little triangles. I remember those.
So anyway, we go out to Rick Macy's, and I hear Liam Draxel. Hey, Steve.
Yeah, Steve.
Man, he's big now. His dad, Brian, used to bring him to our tennis school, and I mean, his legs are like tree trunks.
Strong, yeah.
We did a little film because when we were at the NCAAs watching Liam, he got out to the semis. His father introduced to us to a friend who's, I can't remember, I think it was the Cleveland Indians. He's a biomechanist for the Cleveland Indians. So we
Might have been the Cubs, actually.
the Cubs.
Yeah.
Same
Chicago.
thing.
Chicago
I'm
Cubs.
just kidding, baseball fans. Just kidding. Same thing. With
That makes me want to watch Major League.
that's the Cleveland Indians, right?
Yeah.
But no, Liam
You got a name? Or you're going to settle for Veghead?
Vegshed. Charlie Sheen was in that, right?
Yeah, he was Veghead.
He was also in Ferris Bueller. Let's really get into the movies here.
Yeah.
So the elbow, he had the double pump. His elbow was too high, pulled it down.
Puller.
And now he's serving with abbreviated backswing, and it's the speed of the backswing has nothing to do with the power supply. So he's serving better. He's still opening up. He's always had a smile on his face. I mean, he used to, didn't matter who he's playing, someone at a higher level, lower level. His father, Brian, he always would play the juniors and just loved to battle. But Macy's, we have to talk about Rick. I mean, I think that motivational signs, I certainly know my fair share of motivational quotes.
Well, one thing real quick before Macy, what I like when we were talking to Liam, and we started talking about UTRs a little bit, and he was so relaxed about his UTR. Like, where's your UTR? And he was so just kind of nonchalant about it. Oh, yeah. Oh, I think, it was crazy last year. I was playing all these UTRs, and my UTR went up to like 14.50 or something.
14, that's what he said.
But he was really relaxed about it. You just know he knew roughly what his UTR was, but, you can just tell he had some cool about it.
He was 13.9. That's what he is now. But yeah, we have just the opposite. We're dealing with so many people that are just so uptight about their UTR. So fair enough, it comes down to a college-bound student. Student athlete is their three numbers, their GPA, SAT, UTR. But I remember years ago when Rick Macy was at Greenleaf. Mm-hmm. I stayed at Greenleaf. And at that time, Rick had hired a couple people that I had trained at this 2-year school out in Texas. But I've learned some tricks over the trade and to be incognito. It's not to really, be a spy, but it's okay. I'm only going to have a few minutes popping in and out of the hotel, but I'll stay at Greenleaf because I was doing some things not too far away in Orlando. And I remember it was pretty sad because he had spent a lot of time with Jennifer Capriati, and she was at the French Open playing, and she had moved on and was working with the USTA. But I can remember it wasn't really the best time to go up and talk to him because he was, it was just Rick, the TV, and the French Open. And it was obviously I was observing at a downtime. You can go to a very active tennis school. Sometimes you just hit it on an off day. Mm. But even then, he started having the signs on the court. Then he went to Pompano. Then he was in Boca. But now to drive up and see, they call it's a county facility, but such and such county out in the west of Boca. Big sign with the USTA and home of Rick Macy. I mean, it is
the signs.
It's almost obscene. I mean, I read Rick's book.
I'm gonna say 1,000 signs.
Macy's Magic.
There's 1,000. And
great passion, and he's I've read where he's doing. I talked to a friend of his, a mutual friend, with that they are doing grassroots level tennis, and they're doing. It's a county facility, public facility, the spirit of the public, doing things for underserved, underprivileged children. But when we were there, it was he was the only one teaching. And it was Rick one-on-one, and lots of energy.
He was the one. Shut up and play. There was one out there.
Pop the popcorn.
Yeah.
With
he was helping a girl with her serve. Looked like a competitive player. Regressed palm up. And I think the idea what he was trying to get her to do was, have the equal and opposite reaction when the shoulder goes forward, the racket goes between the elbow and the head. So he was trying to get her to feel that. In his words, it was the lag. So obviously it starts from the ground up. So legs, the hip and then the shoulder. So he was trying to get her to feel that, in his words, the racket's coming in before that leg drive is initiated. So it's true. Like we use the phrase setting the hand. She was setting her hand. But the thing is, she was regress palm up. He was saying down up, down up. And her toss started to go a little bit lower. But, his energy, like you just, he never stopped talking. He just brought the energy the whole time. And it was just fun to watch him teach. That was the first time I'd seen him teach live. And the Macy magic, I think a lot of that is the energy and things, but, practical application, and you never know what people are, what stage they're at. They could be just trying to focus on one thing and not focusing on another in that moment. So you can't really, make a 5-minute judgment, but it was just, it was just interesting.
Teaching and coaching. So we watched Liam go through the NCAAs and, Peter Cobell, who played at Ohio State. My son played doubles with him.
I traveled with him.
Traveled with Peter?
When I was with Connor, we would go to a lot of the same tournaments and travel. So
yeah, we have a fun pre-post of Peter Cobell where he made these changes with his game. At one time, he was ranked number 1 in the NCAA, 6'7", big guy.
Yeah.
So I said, and his father had already said that Peter was very good with Liam on the bench, And Liam was just... he just was fun the way he answered the questions. I said, Cobell's great. I goes, does he hit some serves to you from the service line? He goes, no, he doesn't really even play anymore. Can you imagine Cobell helping somebody to return a serve and serve it to him from the service line?
Yeah.
And
so over their head.
It's like he's serving out of a tree.
Yeah.
But he said every once in a while he tries to bring the Ohio State energy.
Well, Tucker,
he said, but for the most part, he just shows up with a Slurpee and he's pretty laid back.
I was teasing Pete. I saw him down there on the bench, coaching Liam during the NCAAs, and I sent him a message. And I was like, what could you possibly be telling that kid? Come on, you're just saying good job. No, I was giving him a hard time.
No, but actually, I was one time at the NCAAs and some people were being negative to about, it was a year Georgia won, so Coach Manny Diaz is up in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
He's going, and he goes down to the courts, goes back up in the stands. He's sitting in the stands, and someone's being critical. And I said, actually, if you coach really, really well, you don't even need to be on the bench. But I think if you are on the bench, I've spent some time on the bench talking to people. There's not many settings where you actually can do that. You certainly can do it all the time in practice, but you're better off to just get the player to laugh.
Exactly.
It's not like it's too late to say, okay, let's work on your game.
Yeah.
I mean, typically they're playing somebody, they just have a forehand. That's all they have. They're right-handed. Just don't let them move to the left. Just keep hitting forehands to the right.
Yeah.
And they don't come to the net, so don't be worried about elevating the ball. And that way you're going to be the person to get the first short ball.
Yeah. You just give them one or two things. Or, just keep their brain in the right spot in the front, where they're having fun and enjoying competition.
I talked to Rob Krajcik this week. I know it's Topergaard, right? Really nice guy from Denmark. You had him over. Yeah. Had him over here. I met him for the first time. I watched him play several times. I know he's good friends.
Lost a tough one today.
Good friends with Sangren. So Sangren was playing, at that time he was 2-0 against Stevie Johnson. And I said, I was talking, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to go 2 to his forehand and 1 to his backhand. Yeah. And anyway, so tennis is fun. But with Macy, the UTR events are there. And I do think it's great. There's a lot of positives with UTR. I think it's unfortunate that it's very expensive, I think, for the most part. I know there's, Liam told us that he was playing, there's one at Macy's facility every weekend that's on hard court. Yeah. And the Caselli, there's one, I guess, a little further down, you generally in Fort Lauderdale. And that's usually on clay. Yeah. But the fee, it's so expensive. The directors of the USTA, if I'm not mistaken, Laura Bowen, the executive director of Florida Tennis, pretty sure I have it correct. What she told me is that the USTA, there's limits on what you can charge to play in the tournament. UTR is unlimited. And the doubles, people aren't playing doubles. We've been sending players down, and they don't play doubles, and nobody else is playing.
Yeah, one person tries to sign up or something.
And the fee's the same.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time where you just played one, you paid one fee.
Yeah, there were a lot of times it was like, let's say it's $50 for the singles, and it was just like 10 more for the doubles. The additional.
But I know
they're doing pretty well there, business-wise.
Yeah, again, Kyle was telling us that it's
A cash cow.
the facility. It's just packed with tournament players.
Yeah.
And there's so many academies. I heard this line one time: academies are opening up faster than 7-Elevens. There's one on every corner.
Yeah, like Kyle was saying, it's too bad people are so fickle. That they'll go to an academy for a week or two, and they'll lose. Or they'll lose in a tournament a week or two, and then they'll jump ship and go look for like, oh, you didn't help me. It's like,
yeah, I mean,
not a whole lot of
the shop and bop. I mean, that's where I think the consumer has wised up a little bit, where it's too bad, even at the after school junior development at the local club, is sometimes there's some wheeling and dealing.
Yeah.
I understand there's some kids, that you have to help with because they face a financial hardship, but with the backroom deal. So there's a lot of times, well, we're going to go to this academy because who am I going to get to practice with? Who am I going to get to play with?
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to tell people Saddlebrook, a beautiful place. Kyle was a commercial for last week. He was a commercial for Saddlebrook. But when Pete Sampras was there, when Pete was walking down the fairway playing golf, that was not going to help your child with their backhand. But it was great to see so much tennis. The facility, is marketing. When I was a kid, ice hockey, the boards, they were always just all white. And then you watch a hockey game, eventually they start there's enough hockey being telecast where you see a European game. And then like in Germany.
Oh yeah.
So the boards in hockey overseas, now in the U.S. there's advertising on the boards. Mm-hmm. But you go to a small tennis club and you look up on the roof and there's advertising
everywhere. Yeah.
They did that with Newcomb's here in the U.S. That was really cool. I think Newcomb still does. They have a great logo with his big mustache.
Yeah.
But now would be very easy to do with the drones. But years ago in Europe, the Vic Braden tennis schools on the roof was the Vic Braden logo, Vic Braden name and logo.
Yeah. You got some signage going.
But I know you'd spent time in South Florida, but it was fun to give you a tour of Boca.
Yeah. No, I was impressed with the area. I mean, and also just, hey, it's great that tennis is thriving, although pickleball is making its way there as well. It's infiltrating. We
spent some time with a longtime friend, started as a student. He's been in the business a long time now, Brandon Flanagan. Mm-hmm. Have to get this in. His father is Irish, great last name, Flanagan. But Flanagan. Anytime there's a birthday party, he's Polish because it stole a lot. He starts singing happy birthday in Polish, but he brought it up. I used to go, Flanagan, what a name. And I go, Flanagan. He tells a story. I said, Flanagan, get over here. I go, did your parents really mess up? He's looking at me and he goes, he's nervous. And he was telling the story the other day. And I did my punchline was, they should have named you Brendan.
Yeah.
Not Brandon Flanagan. Yeah. It's not Brandon. It's Brendan.
Brendan.
He says he's thinking about it still thinks about it, might change it.
Brendan. Yeah.
With, you want another pint? Why don't you give us a little Irish twang there?
Yeah, I don't know if I can do it. I'm all jacked up on zero sugar Canada Dry here.
But we hooked up with Brandon, and he's got it going. He's been, I thought it was just a handful of years, but it hasn't been a half dozen. It's been over a dozen years that he's been down in that corner of the world.
Yeah.
FM Tennis, is that how people read about his program?
Yeah.
fmtennis.com.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, we can put
he's
that in the show notes.
He had his brother George, his father Ed. They were cheap labor. I asked his father. I said, "What's he paying you?" He said, "I hope I get a sandwich." And they were working. They have a 6,000 square foot building,
Yeah.
and
Who's paying them with corned beef and cabbage?
the
Yeah, it's a performance center.
that's going to be the
they're
name of it.
gonna have, FM tennis, but
FM Tennis
FM performance.
Performance Center
Sorry, Brandon, if we're messing this up.
with. But you walk in and you feel like you're walking into a doctor's office. So the front side of it, you're going to have several experts helping them out. One
Yeah.
we met Richard Woodruff.
Yeah.
Just wood and roof put together. Say that fast. Woodruff.
Yeah, we saw him, and they were working with Kevin Anderson, so we were hanging out there for a little bit.
Yeah, let's go back to the Performance Center for a minute. With Vic Braden years ago, I was telling Brendan that he wanted to have in every strip mall
Yeah.
where just a regular retail shop, you go in and you have your forehand, backhand serve filmed.
Yeah. Surf cage.
Just like getting your hair cut.
Yeah, just like the hitting lane.
So you could be in a mall.
Yeah.
And he's going to be able to do that. He's he's going to have a nutritionist. He's going to have a sports psychologist, yoga master, yoga teacher,
Guru.
yoga guru. That's what we are, aren't we? Internet gurus now.
Please, no.
I certainly don't want to be. Here are the secrets for the serve. With I would think there may be 2 to 3 months away from opening that place. So
He said by the end of the month, but we'll see how well the cheap labor does. See how much corned beef and cabbage.
You're listening better than I was. So, but one of his colleagues, an associate, not too far away. So I'd say everything's within a 3-mile hike.
Yeah.
3 miles this way, 3 miles that way.
A stone's throw.
Say that again.
A stone's throw, maybe.
With Whale Al-Hindi.
Yeah, or Weil. I was thinking Weil just because Weil Tennis Academy.
Wael. He's a top 10 squash player in the world. He's played squash with Roger Federer.
Yeah, Egyptian.
I told him about myself being I was in Switzerland and had these kids hitting against tennis. Okay, let's just speaking of Henry Square.
Yeah. Kinetic. I mean, that place was cool.
Yeah, what it's called?
Kinetic, I believe.
Kinetic Racket.
Kinetic
Racket. You can put it in the notes.
Oh, man, I blew it. Yeah, I'll put it in the
notes.
I apologize. I'll put it in the show notes.
So you mentioned Henry Square. I'd have to count. I think I've been in 5 or 6 countries with Henry Square.
Yeah.
From the time he was a little kid. But he was with us, and we're in Zurich, and I've got kids in the squash court, and they're hitting, okay, let's hit some tennis balls. We've got to wait a long time for the court to open up. It's winter time.
Yeah.
And the Swiss kids, and other European kids, they're just playing squash. And I was just thinking, well, that's how the Fed gets so he could hit those amazing shots.
Exactly.
Now we have kids that are trying to squash shot before they're even past a single sideline. When the Fed he hits his squash shots, he's on a stadium court. He's almost in the stands.
I was just looking this up. It's a Kinetic Indoor Racket Club. Kineticracket.com. Check it out. This place is cool.
And Fitzell could do that because he has much better phone skills than I do. My phone skills
would be the understatement of the millennium.
But
just teasing you, Smith. But you're not that bad.
But Whale is the founder.
Yeah.
Young guy. I read his background. He was a tennis player until the age of 13. And he converted to squash, so he's a late comer to squash.
Convert.
But what he said about pickleball, everybody tries to be positive.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start hanging out more with Kyle. I'm going to be really positive. Seriously. You can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. So what he said he didn't like about pickleball Egyptian. So he's got a worldly point of view. He's not in his backyard.
Yeah.
Traveled all over the world with squash. He said that pickleball is invading tennis.
Yeah.
It's not
It's not its own sport.
Like he has 5 squash courts. Squash is not invading. Brandon, a place right by where he is called Calusa Park, that you go in and there's all these 3-wall wall.
Yeah.
How do you say that?
Three wall ball. I don't know.
It's racquetball, like Macy's, where that huge sign is, where it says USTA and Macy.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, okay, how's that work? So I looked that up. I'm not the researcher I'd like to be, but Macy is a consultant to the USTA. Mm-hmm. Like, okay. But there's a big sign, Rick Macy is to the right. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
But it's on a wall because at the Macy facility, I believe it's 12. So right by Flanagan, they have, they don't have that many, but they have 3 walls for racquetball.
Yeah.
And what a great way to hit tennis balls.
Exactly.
But I asked Kyle, because I once went to a pickleball clinic. Chuck Gill, somebody I've known since the 70s. We worked at different sites with All American Sports, and he's done so much for the USPTA. He's president of USPTA. I know he's on the board with Florida Tennis Association. And at that time, we were just sitting on a bench at the U.S. Open, and he said, pickleball is just a casual sport. Why don't they just leave it a casual sport? And now, I do think both. I mean, I know the PTR and USPTA, and I cringe a little bit that they're overnight experts on pickleball.
Yeah.
But I think the way Mr. Al Hindi said that was, it's so true. We really saw it. And I mean, I think that lets you know how much faster tennis is happening in that Boca Raton area, Palm Beach County.
Yeah.
Is they're way ahead of the game, having converted already. Brandon works at the Boca Raton Tennis Center. That's one of his. I think he's got a half dozen sites, but where he's teaching tennis. And M is for his partner's last name, Allington, a British guy. So you got an Irish guy with an Americanized first name and a British guy, partners.
Yeah.
But they've already converted 2, and I guess they're going to convert 2 more.
Yeah.
To pickleball. So it's I think that's very strong. It's invading tennis.
Yeah, I mean, the tennis court, so you got the kid lines, right? The 60-foot court. So you already had some, different lines on the court. Now with the pickleball, I mean, he had this really nice, Weil had this really nice tennis, 1 indoor court at his facility, but it looks like a maze is drawn on it. There's just lines everywhere.
What Vic Braden used to say about that, it's no big deal. Vic was a basketball nut. That was his favorite sport. If you go into a gym, there's lines for badminton, there's lines for this, there's lines for that. And the people know which line is for, say basketball. But there's volleyball, badminton. There's quite a few lines if you go into a public high school.
Still looks better when it's just tennis. All right? That's just my opinion.
Yeah, you spend too much time combing your hair, too.
You're so damn jealous.
But with that, there was a lot of concern when the 10 and under lines were put on the court. I think the 10 and under lines are great for just teaching the game. You get it's 60 feet, so the court's 78. You come in 9 feet. Now you could play playing depth. You hit over the service line. High level depth is hitting over the 10 and under line.
Yeah, percentage line.
The 10 and under line is just like, okay, so where Jack Kramer is, his geometry teacher said, this is where you play your approach shot. Mm-hmm. With but the lines now are 2-tone, so you've got like 2 different colors of blue, but people really fought. They really didn't want to have those lines.
Yeah.
Doesn't really help so much on the clay court. You can do it, but it's one thing that's faded away is the USTA and around the world. I think it was a really good model for adult tennis. Is kids playing east and west, so they're playing on a 36-foot court. Mm-hmm. So you'd have 6 tennis courts, hitting east and west. Back in the 70s, there were so many people playing. How's it go? You need to imitate before you innovate. Dennis Vandermeer, I can remember just copying Dennis. So I was a director of, we called it Tennis Tech at Tyler Junior College. And on every court we had 12 courts. We had the capability of, they're just these wooden nets. So the bottom was 6 inches, 2 inches thick, 6 inches wide. And we had enough to go 3. So you could have as many as 6 courts. So people would play East and West. Mark Hamlin, who we need to get on a podcast, is the first person ever, my first guinea pig that I taught to teach tennis.
Yeah.
He worked with a guy, George Mueller, Christoph Mueller's son. And this is in a place called Bad Schwartau, north of Lubeck. And they had a cable. They just had a cable. It was really well done. It was an indoor court. You just went from the beam behind the center of the baseline to the wall to wall, 120 feet. And then they had 3 nets. It was just like, the Germans. They didn't invent
the Germans.
They didn't invent the bicycle. They just perfected it. But when we were at Whale Al Hindi's place, we just went in and talked because there's a possibility that we, could do some filming there. We want to continue. We got to do so many things to improve the GreatBase. Yeah. But Coco Gauff was there.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing about South Florida is that it's happening. So it's like, okay, Coco Gauff's here. A couple of our students were excited to be at a tournament a couple of weeks back because she was there as well, but she was there watching her little brother play. And it was interesting. I watched her little brother play.
Yeah, little brother was there.
Her brother was playing points or tiebreakers, maybe a set, don't know what the scoring format was, but the owner, the operator, Whale Al Hindi, was playing, I think he's an 8-year-old kid, but was listening to his father from the bench. His father said, trust yourself. And he said that a couple of times. Another line he said was, because the kid was losing points and the body language, and he said, you're not going to go anywhere with that attitude. Now, I've watched Coco Gauff. I mentioned it on a previous podcast, this kid that we spent a lot of time with, Victor Lilov. He's the same age. And there's many times when they were in the 12s that they would go deep in a tournament. And I can remember watching her play and watching her train. There's a famous story where her father said, she'll run across glass. She'll run barefoot across broken glass to get to a ball. Yeah. Matt Clore was with the USTA, spends a lot of time with, says that he thinks that she's next to Nadal. I heard him say that. He goes, next to Nadal, he said, I think she's one of the best competitors. But it just makes you think, because Patrick Monigulu, 2 of his coaches were there, and they were just doing a gym workout. Yeah. That I don't think that his training will be as raw, if that's the right word, that his sister's was. Because, he's been on record saying that, that he was tough. Yeah. He coached her. And I think that has a lot to do. I mean, I'm a huge fan. I mean, I know that we could be a little critical, like we could be if anyone, including ourselves first, that she could hit the ball cleaner. Yeah. I was giving Brandon Flanagan a ping pong lesson, table tennis lesson, and it's right next to the court. Let's say this about table tennis with our random conversation. I tell kids when they're playing table tennis, just do this up to the count of 20. The ball hits the table, let it hit the floor, and then you hit a forehand. Yeah. Hits the table, let it hit the floor, and then hit a backhand. Because you really have to lift. Yeah. Like maybe that's the time, I mentioned the Bill Price story. Back in the day, Bill Price, he coached tennis as a hobby. Most people years ago, they didn't charge fees for tennis lessons. St. Louis, he would go to the baseball, Little League games and pick out, usually the shortstop, pick out some really good athlete. And there were several, but one was Chuck McKinley. And I know his brother Bobby. I had a chance to see Chuck play. Played Wimbledon once, and he won it. Little guy, jumped through the gym, very acrobatic. But Price told McKinley and all the parents of the kids that he identified that if you do this, if you get a ping pong table and you use these grips, so and again, I think way back when Richard Nixon was trying to have relations with China and how the Chinese were hanging on to ping pong paddles, what little I knew about ping pong. But if you play with these grips, and then you come and watch me teach every weekend for a year, then I'll coach you for free. And that's very similar to what they do in Eastern philosophy, some martial arts, where you have to sit and observe for a week.
Yeah.
You watch it. I've seen this happen so many times at indoor tennis clubs where there's some downtime and they karate class, kung fu, whatever taekwondo. Here in America, to digress, take your dough. Yeah. It used to just be a brown belt and a black belt. But so anyway, it's just interesting. The kids have their robes on, they bow to their instructors, and it's just totally quiet. And they stand there with their arms behind their back. And
Napoleon Dynamite, Rex Kwando. If you haven't seen the movie, you gotta see Rex Kwando.
You have to understand, our listeners, is that Leo and I, Andy's wife, we work 24/7, and he just watches movies. No, that's not true.
No, it's just that I have an ear for memorization.
I have total recall. I recall totally what I want to.
Exactly.
What
I was going to say, though? What I was going to say
before you
was when I was playing ping pong, when I was giving Brandon a lesson, meaning just schooling him, moving him side to side, I said out loud, pretty loud, it's too bad these guys don't know how much we could help Coco with her tennis game. With a little bit of arrogance, admittedly, right? But it was like, hey, it's too bad she doesn't know how much we could help her with her serve. I think that's what I said. Just to maybe see if they could.
Well, competition's good. I think that we could help Patrick Monegulu with how he's explaining the forehand too. But the spice of life. I was showing a video today, Rafael Fontemora, and if you want to see creativity, wow, Rafael. He was a student of ours at Tennis Tech. He's from Spain. He's out in the Scottsdale area.
Yeah,
he came to work with us. His energy. Dennis Vandermeer sent him to me. His energy was just off the charts, still is, and I had him play left-handed.
Yeah. The accent's going to reel people in too.
Yeah, he's just very, very creative. So if you would watch Raphael and you watch what we do, say with Welby Van Horn balance, we would look a little outdated, like Agassi. When he started wearing Nike and wearing flashy clothes where they were hooked up to a battery pack that he was wearing so they would shine in the dark, there's that commercial where he said it's all about image. The other one where...
Yeah, image is everything.
And that doesn't happen at the country club.
That'll wake up the country club.
Yeah. And fair enough. People on the forehand, they used to teach penny on edge, shake hands in the back, shake hands on the front. It was a 180-degree swing.
Yeah.
And actually, even though Borg was on the scene and he revolutionized the game, you could even go back where Laver, with a composite and Australian grip, close to continental on the forehand side.
Yeah.
He did okay hitting some top.
Just rolled that baby a little bit.
But Jimmy Arias, Nick saw him hit in a public park and just said, wow, that's how everybody has to hit a forehand.
Yeah.
And Nick didn't get around to teaching him, and Jimmy gives him a hard time for it. Ironically, Jimmy now is in a leadership role at IMG, formerly Valteres.
Yeah.
That he didn't have a backhand grip. He got to be 4 or 5 in the world. And I mean, he was just weak on the backhand side, but his forehand was something new.
Jimmy told me some stories at Indian Wells. A few times there in the media area, we chatted. But
I haven't met. I've never
keep those stories secret.
I've never met Jimmy in person, but one of the guys we trained, Gary Needleman, he was the assistant at one time, the volunteer. I guess volunteer first, and the assistant at UCF in a very, very short period of time. Jimmy was the coach at UCF, so with Ashley Fisher. I got on the phone a few times with Jimmy, but he was just refreshingly honest.
Yeah.
In fact, I heard Brad Gilbert, who I really like to listen to. I think Jimmy, I love to listen to him as a commentator.
Yeah.
It's like he goes,
I do too.
I love how Dennis Shapovalov comes to the net. I don't think he knows what he's doing when he gets up there, but I love how he comes in. And is it Uswe? How do you pronounce her name? She was on TV today. She was really on fire at 17. They said, she's
Trains up here at UCA. Yeah.
Yeah, so she was hitting some slice forehands. And what was good was Gilbert. I don't think there's enough of this in tennis, a little chirping. With hockey, you walk in the locker room and, people just give you a hard time from the get-go.
Yeah.
I think that too much of that happens. But Gilbert said today on TV, he said, we're going to have to call Jimmy out. What's he doing down there? You can't hit slice forehands like that. You usually don't hear comments like that. I think there's just so much edifying in all of tennis. Let's practice. I'll go, Fitzell, you're great. I'm not going to use last names. That's not proper. Andy, you're really great. You guys go, Steve, you're really great too.
Yeah, no thing. Yeah, I try. Steve, you're the best, man.
It's really hard for you to say that.
So good.
Your nose is getting bigger, Pinocchio. No, too much edifying. With what's next on the agenda? How about Patch Reef Park, Boca tour?
Patch Reef Park. Yeah, that was a nice place.
Showing you the Boca Hotel. I mean, it's just an amazing place. But there's tennis everywhere. It's
a ton of courts. I mean,
but with that being said, Carla Navarro, we crashed at Carla's house. Her husband, her 2 daughters and son, they're over playing tennis in Belgium.
Right down from the Delray Beach Tennis Center.
Delray Beach Tennis Center, Atlantic Avenue has been rebuilt in many years. I used to take tennis lessons from Ed Foster when I was the perennial tennis bum in Boca Raton, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I was the only person who rode the public bus in Boca. And with that, that's where, let's see, Thomas Olestead, Michael Darcy, Brent Wellman, actually Flanagan. I'm sure for everyone I mentioned, I'm forgetting another one, but Carla and her husband, Roberto. I don't go with Carla Wojcik.
Yeah.
It's Carla Navarro. She's from Bolivia, Bolivian tennis power.
Yeah.
With
Boliviana.
But that's where we were watching Kevin Anderson practice. But before we go to Kevin Anderson, tell us about Patch Reef Park.
Patch Reef Park, well.
Have you seen anything better than that place?
It was really nice. The drive-in was like, whoa, turf on the right, fields, and then you go back in, like forested kind of area, and then kind of felt like Jurassic Park. You're going through Jurassic Park, you go in, am I going to see a T-Rex or what? And then it's like, this huge center with a bunch of nice courts, actually, and they were all empty. But we broke through the gate.
I can remember taking...
Actually, it was open, I should say, but we unlatched the chain and walked in a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be super if they had clay, though. Yeah, I mean, it's hard court. But still, they actually need more hard courts. That's interesting about that part of the world. Is
not super, it would be super.
Super, Patrick, Modicolo.
Yeah.
Speaking of Patch Reef Park...
Yeah, that would be...
What I've done over the years is when you meet people that are famous, you just, pretend you don't even know that they're how's it go? Treat the famous
like they're not.
And those that are not, like they're famous.
Yeah.
But I can remember Chris Everett, another tennis enthusiast, born in 1954.
Legend.
But I remember being, when my kids were little, taking them to the swing sets, and Chris Everett would be there with their little kids.
Yeah.
But, we'll come back to Carla and the Delray Beach Tennis Center. It's just all right there. I mean, everything's just a few miles away.
Yeah.
Courts everywhere.
A lot of sense.
We did get a tour of Kyle's place with
really nice.
The Oaks.
The Oaks.
Beautiful, high end.
Yeah.
They have, I think, just one hard court, right? They have 12 beautiful.
Yeah, they have
one red
clay, and the one hard.
Pristine.
Yeah.
The But I didn't finish that thought too. Is that I asked Kyle about pickleball? How's that plastic ball work on clay? And he said they're trying it, but
Yeah.
so maybe that's going to help out tennis in Boca, is that they can't play pickleball on clay.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll probably figure it out.
We weren't really there at the right time. Carla told us he has an amazing background in tennis, or she's been in it since birth, from a tennis family. Carla's told us that certain times of the season you just can't get a court. But when we were there, just about every facility we popped in on Saturday, Sunday, they were closed in the afternoon or evening.
Yeah, the early. Yeah. Yep. Pretty warm.
But my old stomping grounds, I started off as a tennis bum. I mean, I taught tennis at the Boca Hotel a little bit with All American Sports, Boca West. I can remember I worked at the Memorial Park. We swung by there in Boca. But also right around the corner from Patrick Park, Chris Everett. What'd you think of that place?
Yeah, I thought it was beautiful. Set up there made sense. Nice courts. Again, empty at that time of day. But yeah, I mean, across the street, Boca Prep, Andy Roddick, Marty Fish, right?
That used to be the Greg Louganis Swim Center. And there was 3 pools, each cost $1 million. 2 of them, I was there when they filled them in. And I was the second person hired. They hired the architect, and I was a tennis director. Actually, Dave Anderson, we talk about quite often. He joined me, and at that time, Scusa Bassett, but then IMG and Chris Everett purchased it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what's going on in the world today. Wouldn't we like to, maybe we'd be better off if we really didn't know what was going on in the world. But what's going on in tennis, I think unfortunately, in many ways, I think to be associated with USPTA, PTR, USTA, the alphabet soup, is you have to be politically correct. Yeah. And I'm not one to be politically correct. Yeah, I know. But the USTA, I was pointing out to you, so they have one really nice building to the left, and then one really nice building to the right. The USTA on Everett land, and did the Everett family, did Chrissy just buy the entire operation? She owned the whole property without IMG? I don't know, but at one time it was Everett and IMG. So the USTA comes in and they build the building. They pay for every penny to build the building, but they build it on Everett land. Yeah. So once it was built, this is the USTA money. I think a lot of people call it public money. What's going on with the public money? So the building built and paid for by the USTA, and then the USTA has to rent it.
That makes sense.
And then I wonder if the USTA leaves, and you hear numbers, and you don't know if it's accurate. The USTA was paying $110,000 a month at one time, and now, but they've left. And I was told it was a 30-year deal. So I wonder if they're still paying. Just like you hear, what's going on.
I would guess yes.
What's going on in Afghanistan, and the Americans have left millions of dollars of artillery, equipment. Yeah. 256, I'm trying not to watch the news, but 256 helicopters, 208 airplanes. If it was a movie, they would have blown it all up. They would have the soldiers put everything in one pile, and we're just going to blow this up.
Oh, they'd flick a match and walk away, and you'd see everything explode. Behind the hero, walking in slow motion. Yeah.
And tell us about the color scheme. It'd be
orange and teal.
Orange and teal.
Yeah.
So that's not the case. So now you're watching on the network to the right, not the network to the left. The network to the right,
we're getting into politics.
You're watching somebody driving.
This is new.
Well,
the GreatBase Tennis Podcast.
But tennis is tennis. The FUBAR tennis.
Well, let's get down to the tennis FUBAR.
Well, let me go back to the guy.
I'm just giving a hard time.
The guy driving the U.S. tank.
Yeah.
That's not good. A FUBAR.
We can't explain what FUBAR means because we got kids listening.
Could be two different definitions. Well, the F word you got to guess. Yeah. But it's effed up beyond all repair.
Fun.
Or effed up beyond all recognition. But that's tennis teaching. But the thing is that I say this in world affairs. I understand and agree with diplomacy. In tennis teaching, I don't agree with diplomacy. I mean, if you've got adult 1 and adult 2, so you say adult A, adult B, you got 2 different people. Then you got C, you got the kid. I mean, it's healthy to disagree, but when
so I should have been louder when I was playing ping pong when I was schooling Brandon. I should have been louder. Hey, let me help your daughter with her serve. You're an American.
Well,
I'm American.
actually, how that world would work is, I mean, it would have to be. First of all, it's probably not going to happen, but with this is how it should happen. That if only people were to listen to me, is Matt Clora's hitting some balls. He's fit. He hits the ball really well. So he's hitting balls with Coco Gauff.
Yeah.
She comes up to Lake Nona, and I said, Matt, if I were you, what I would recommend is just tell the dad, I will drive. I'll get permission from Kathy Rinaldi. I'll drive down to. They live in Boynton or Delray. I'll drive down once a week and I'll play your daughter, and then I'll film it. I'll bring it back. I'll chart it, and I'll do a voiceover of the match, and then I'll do a voiceover of the technique, and I'll just send it to you. You're the Papa Bear, and he's the architect. You got to give.
Yeah, exactly. You just make the video for him.
You got to give the mother credit too, but from what I've seen, he's the architect. Mm-hmm. Someone's got to be in charge, and she's at a different place where I think that's one of the. We talked about that with Jack Kramer. Jack Kramer, for sure, would, like you said about Sabatini, like I said about Tiafoe after you win the Orange Bowl, it's like, well, you should take a year off and really learn how to play.
Yeah.
And I think that she would be a sure thing to win Grand Slams. She probably will anyway, but to win multiple, to win more. So
I'll reduce injury too.
But I think that the young boy, you have to capture him on film. Mm-hmm. And he should have a different technical upbringing than the sister. But winning is not confusing. He's totally confusing. But let's go back to watching Kevin Anderson. So Carla, she's working at the Delray Beach Tennis Center. I wanted to run into Jeff Bingo. He's a director. I know him from a long, long time ago when he was a junior in Boca. Bingo. Yeah. But didn't see Brent Wellman, who we've trained. He's in charge of juniors at that facility.
I haven't seen him for years.
But the pandemic, it's amazing. Time's gone by where you haven't been seeing people on a regular basis. It's like I said earlier, 2 summers, like the Orange Bowl or the Eddie Herr.
Yeah.
So we're watching Anderson volley. It's the same thing. We're watching Anderson not volley, really.
Yeah.
So it's we just had to go back because we had Carla lives in walking distance, but we all rode in one car to go out to dinner. Or actually we just walked. That's it. We walked down Atlantic Ave. We didn't drive to dinner, so we had to go back to the tennis center. Mm-hmm. And because we're such pure athletes, we didn't stop for ice cream. We said, okay, we'll just sit in the stands and watch 4 people coach.
Yeah, I stretched.
We'll watch 4 people coach Kevin Anderson at the same time.
I've got terabytes of footage of Kevin because, like, when Warren Pretorius and I would do filming projects, Kevin being South African, we would film Kevin a lot. So I've got a lot of film. In fact, Warren set up, this is years ago, where he set it up where I actually did some video analysis with Kevin, sat down in this little back room in Indian Wells Tennis Garden. And then the next week he beat Djokovic, but not because of anything I said, but it's just interesting.
I'll tell you why I think he beat Djokovic, because I was in Miami, and I remember that, is Kevin Anderson, he practiced with Federer, and he took a set from Federer.
Yeah.
Of course, people know that Federer in practice, he's going to try a few things, and that's why he can do so many things with the ball. Like the Roger Federer, I didn't know you're supposed to win in practice. Yeah. But his mother, Lynette, she likes to seek out the South Africans, and she hooked up Roger to hit with Kevin. So if you had to be sky high. Here's a kid coming out of Illinois, takes a set from Roger Federer. Just think about how powerful that is. That and I think that's one thing where players from other parts of the world, they really get a sense of belonging. like say in Sweden, for example, years ago when there were 6 out of 10 players top world, in the 6 out of 10 in the top in the world, they all go to Davis Cup. In America, just the players who know they're going to play. I think that was very good about, like, say, Marty Fish when he wasn't playing, and he's the captain now. And maybe that's one of the reasons he's the captain is he was a team guy. He wasn't. It was really. I remember going in 2007 when they won in Portland. It was the Bryan brothers. It was James Blake and Roddick. Yeah. Blake got up to be 4 in the world. And, Fish played quite a bit and contributed, but.
Well, logistically too, though, in defense of America, not to say your point isn't correct, but if you're living in California and Davis Cup is in New York, it's tougher to get there than it is in Europe. You can just drive there. Hey, you're right. Although, but I'm just saying there are some reasons why maybe.
Well, I think that comment comes back to all the drugs you did when you were in high school. Davis Cup used to be home and away, Fitzell. So it means that every other year.
We're talking elementary.
Yeah, it's elementary school.
No,
sugar's a drug. Every other year there used to be away matches, and I think talking to Raven Clausen, and we talked to him exchanging text messages actually today. He said, "Well, Davis Cup is after the U.S. Open. It's at Forest Hills. That means it's all at one place." Yeah, but. With Kevin, our listeners, a lot of people, Fergus O'Rourke, he listens to our podcast.
Fergus,
young Irishman. He said we mentioned too many names. He sings.
Singer.
He sings. He's the whole package.
Yeah.
How's it go? You're a triple threat if you can sing, dance, and act.
Okay.
I don't think he can act though. Maybe.
Are you a model / actor or an actor / model?
With mentioning too many
Kevin
names.
Anderson.
I don't want to be called a name dropper, but we were watching him, and so he came over to the United States. Kevin Anderson, I know parents built a backboard in his backyard. I had people tell me he's the hardest worker. I think it was J.J. Jones. I mean, G.G. Jones. Or one of his teammates was coaching him at one time, a young guy from New Zealand, fighter, competitor. He was serving underhand. He had a hurt shoulder and didn't slow him down. So Kevin's had a bunch of coaches. And, I mean, here's a guy who's one match away from winning Wimbledon, one match away from winning the U.S. Open. And, he's had a number of injuries, but he's playing a point. He's got 4 people talking to him. Now, actually, one is one of the experts who's going to work for or with Brendan Flanagan at the Performance Center, the FM Performance Center.
Yeah,
Richard Woodruff.
Well, the one time Kevin did, I remember years ago when I did video work for him, I was just showing him the ground strokes. I remember his center of gravity kind of falling back. And it's like, hey, you're 6 foot tall, you're 6'7" or whatever, you want to set yourself up to go forward. That was my advice, but he came, he served and volleyed, then, he dropped the racket head on a forehand volley and dumped it in the net, just a sitter, easy. He got really frustrated and he hit the ball out of the stands and it kind of whizzed by my head actually. And it was almost a Denis Shapovalov Davis Cup moment. But there was no like, hey, do this on that volley. It's too bad.
Now, I guess that he was at Illinois 1 year with Craig Tiley, before Craig Tiley went to be the director of player development in Australia. Now, Brad Dancer, Tyler used to sing his praises. He was in a really bad car accident and how well he handled that. But from a philosophical standpoint, there's a lot of differences between Tiley and Dancer from a coaching standpoint. Tiley really wanted people to go forward. And I do think that, not to take anything away from Dancer, if Tiley had stayed with Anderson longer. Yeah. But I knew that Kevin, the grapevine, stay away from the grapevine. The grapevine will choke you. But I knew, I don't know where I was told, but Kevin was looking for a coach. So I don't know Brad all that well, but certainly known him a long time. But you see someone at a tournament, you say hello for a few minutes. It's not like I ever really worked with him. But yeah. So I sent him an email or a text, and I said, Kevin Anderson should hire Raven Clausen. And Raven, he came to work with me when he was just 18 years old. And I tell him to this day, I tell people that you're both a tennis player and a tennis teacher.
Right.
And, I only had to reprimand Raven one time. Amazing individual. And I reprimanded him not, it was several years ago now, because he's definitely going to get the ATP pension.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, you're talking too much about the ATP pension. You need to be talking about other math.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was, what do you do with the volley when Jack Sock is hitting all those RPMs off his forehand? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of math that way, especially if you have a severe open racket face, the racket's going downward, and his ball is coming to you like a spinning tire. But at that time, Raven, it was a go. It was at that time Kevin was very young, just coming out of college, and his father was traveling with him, and it was a go. And I think it would have been great for both of them, because Raven would have been at the big show the way the points work out. It took Raven a long time. I mean, he had these 3 knee operations, but Eric Buterak really helped Raven out by saying, "Hey, will you play doubles with me?" Yeah, and because Eric had the ranking, and they didn't do that well after, but very quickly, I think it was their second time playing together, maybe first, they got the finals of the Australian Open. Mm-hmm. But at that time, Raven was still thinking about playing singles, and the way it works is that he would have been playing challengers, and I think my thought was why do you commit? And he would tell you now that he wished he had done it a little bit sooner, commit to being a double specialist.
Yeah, he told me that as well.
And because he has a wealth of information, and he knows what we've studied, he's studied, and so someone as big as Kevin, serving that well, I think of the Argentine Del Potro. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, he grew up on red clay, but just not that acrobatic. What a great ball striker, but not that acrobatic at the net. And the only way that's going to happen, it's interesting if you got a chance to watch, which I have, you get to watch John Isner play basketball. And it's just brain memory, out at Saddlebrook, a lot of different places if you play basketball, but you see how he is under the boards. I mean, well, first of all, in tennis, he's a giraffe. He's a big boy. Yeah. But the brain, he has the footwork in basketball looking for rebound that he doesn't have when he goes up to the net. Mm. But he's not playing at the net like an acrobat where he's going to hit 2 volleys. For the most part, he's setting the point up, even in doubles. Mm-hmm. But, I think of Jimmy Connors, who was such a great player. He didn't have the biggest serve, but he basically, for the most part, set points up where he's going to hit such a great approach shot, hit so deep off his groundies. You're going to hit the approach shot, get in, and the ball's above the level of net.
Yeah, for those guys, it's the approach shot's the serve. So they serve, and then they get the sitter forehand.
I could end with a Jimmy story. I know that, okay, so we'll talk more about Andy and his wife going back to Germany, but they're going to help us with
Deutschland.
GreatBase. We're going to make a few changes.
We'll try.
What we're doing.
I'm going to say we'll try. There's some logistics, some things involved. We need some support.
You're going to say you're going to try. I mean,
well, I'll try until you watch Star Wars, and then maybe I'll do.
If I watch Star Wars, you'll be on the podcast?
Yeah.
Actually, no, we still haven't got you to really plug in your personality.
Well, you don't stop talking.
I told you why, though. I'm the youngest of 6. I didn't get to talk for the first 20 years of my life.
No, it's all good. Yeah, we'll
it's called verbal diarrhea.
We'll make things happen. We'll make things happen.
I'm going to end with a Jimmy story. I have been around Jimmy Connors many, many times, talking about back to Boca. Mm-hmm. He used to come in and play at Boca West.
Yes.
And at one time he was dating. He was engaged to Chrissy Everett. At that time, Chrissy Holiday Park. Now it's Jimmy Everett Park. But Myron Grunberg, he used to be the general manager we have our network and people listen to our podcast. He used to be the general manager of the Richmond Hill Country Club, where one of our favorite people, Richard Hernandez, has been for a long time.
Yep.
Aaron Manis has been there. So Andy Roddick, there's the Roddick family. Actually, there's, I think, J.C. Roddick. He's been recruited to play at UCF. He's a highly ranked American. His father, Lawrence, that's the brother that didn't play at the same level as John or Andy. But he actually used our curriculum back when J.C. Roddick was really young. So John Roddick is there, and he tells the story. So it's only three people. Andy Roddick is the player. They hired Jimmy Connors. And the story goes, well, Jimmy's going to come to Austin.
Like 50,000 a day.
I know, it was only 40. It was only 40. I heard 40. So Jimmy says, only like Jimmy can, he said, give me the nicest suite at the nicest hotel. So Andy thinks about it for a little bit. He calls it back. He goes, I live alone. I got a 5-bedroom house. You can just stay here.
Yeah.
At $40,000, it's like, okay. And whether that's true or not, so that amount of money. But it wasn't for 52 weeks, though. So,
it's another podcast.
Jimmy goes out to practice, and Roddick did say that he had never met anybody who could swear. This is a story that I heard from Myron Grunberg, who heard from John Roddick. So take it for what it is.
Take it for what it is, yeah.
So they're on the court, and coming back to Jimmy, though, is that this is, I think, before he had both hips replaced. But he would just stand in one place like the old coach and not miss.
Yeah.
And put every ball on a dime, just inches from the baseline like a machine.
Mm-hmm.
So Jimmy wants to establish old school mentality. He's going to be the boss. Maybe
the dog.
Maybe this is why he only coached Sharapova for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So he has Roddick, who's they used to call it the Andy Roddick Golden Bucket Award, because he played a match, and others before him have done it too. So he's playing a match at Kalamazoo, and he vomits, but he keeps vomiting like every third point, and they come out to clean it up, and he still wins the match.
Yeah,
he gets through the whole match. So he has that fight, got that spirit. So, but to start it off, Jimmy just brings the net, and Jimmy used to take his index finger and point like this. Mm-hmm. So he tells young Roddick, who at that time is an established pro. He's young to Jimmy, but he's not young to being a world-class tennis player. He's been the number one player in America for a long time. So Jimmy just waves his finger, and he takes his lessons from Seguro and Gonzalez, Pancho, and he says, "Kid," he's calling him kid. "Kid, the only way this is going to work is all I'm going to do is give you have to
stuff.
I'm going to give you stuff. Okay. Yeah. I won't say SHIT. So he's just going to give you stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to give you stuff, and you're going to take my stuff, and you're not going to give me any stuff.
Yeah.
Do you understand?" Point his finger at him. So Andy Roddick, obviously he's a multimillionaire at this time. He kind of looks at him, and he walks back and he looks at the older brother, and it kind of looked like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And John Roddick gives him the gears, just a quick glance, like, just shut up and do it.
Yeah.
Just do what he tells you.
Yeah.
So kind of, just trying to break him down, and then Roddick vomits. He goes over and vomits, and Connors just goes, "Get in the other corner." So he doesn't even give him a chance to rinse his mouth out. Go in the other corner. And he just grinds him. And so then he says, "Yeah, that's good for you today." And so then Andy Roddick goes into the locker room, and then Jimmy says to John Roddick, "I think this is going to work." But what makes me think about that is that Connors, that's how he played tennis. But he could put the ball on the dime. He's so deep. Mm-hmm. And that's really how singles is played. You hit the ball deep, you make your approach shot, and then you go to the net and you do the math.
Yeah.
And you win 2 out of 3. It's not that complicated. Yeah. But Jimmy with his toss way over his head, I used to do a great imitation of his serve. I actually imitated Jimmy's serve for Jimmy.
Yeah.
But with Connors, he won Wimbledon. He won the U.S. Open playing doubles with Stasi. People don't know tennis history. One time, Robbie Seguso, it was in Dusseldorf. Pretty sure. Tell me,
This is tying together pretty well here in the end. Here.
This is the team tournament was in Dusseldorf, right?
Yeah. Well, at the Rose Club, which is right near my house there.
So Robbie Seguso, he's there with Ken Flack. He's good enough to be on the team, and he's playing doubles. And you gotta love Robbie Seguso. So Connors is there. He's part of the team, and Jimmy is started to tell Robbie some things that he should do in doubles. But at that time, Connors, because there's so much money in tennis, he had to quit playing doubles. And Seguso, I've known Robbie since he was 10, so people are kind of shocked when they say Robbie Seguso.
Just keep telling the story, Stephen.
So Robbie turns to Connors and says, "What do you know about doubles? What do you know about doubles?" I'll end by saying this. I was one time on the court with Vic Braden. He's teaching his son, Sean. And Sean says to him, "What do you know about tennis?" So it's kind of like the kid who tells the mom, the mom who doesn't play tennis tells the kid, especially the boy, "I think you should tie your shoes." And then the kid looks at the mother and goes, "What do you know about tennis?" But I think we could wrap it up. Boca, what an amazing place.
Yeah, it was a fun little quick
talk. Talked quite a bit. We need to go upward and forward with the GreatBase. I hope you got something out of our chit chat.
Yeah, a lot of fun experiences. A few little gems in there. All right, everybody.
Why don't you give us a line from a movie, Fitzell, right on the spot? Can you think on your feet, Fitzell?
Well, this was a recent, and it's actually, there's a little bit of a song to it. We'll see if somebody out there can get it. If you do, send me a direct message, and I'll give you verbal praise. You ready? When Cameron was in Egypt's land, let my Cameron go. He'll keep calling. I'll go. There you go. So if you know what I was doing there, send me a direct message.
So no answer.
I'm not going to tell you what the line was. I got to get it. And if you got it, you got it. And if you didn't, then, you're not up on your 80s pop culture. There's my hint. John Hughes.
I thought it was Clint Eastwood when he was on Gunsmoke.
Oh, man.
You're so young. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, if you made it through that, appreciate it. Find us online at GreatBase Tennis. And hopefully we're helping you out with your tennis game a little bit and your life. Because that's what it's all about, right? Tennis is life. Life is tennis.
You're the first person to say that.
I'm going deep right now. We're getting philosophical.
Yeah, that reminds me of going back to Clausen, where Taylor Fritz asked, he was playing World Team Tennis with him. Mm-hmm. Fritz's father or mother, both big-time tennis backgrounds, had asked Raven, so reprimanding Raven, he goes, "Well, I don't have time to coach Fritz." It only takes a couple minutes to give somebody some advice.
Yeah. Put your grip like this. Swing like this.
It's like disco tennis.
Disco here.
And disco there. Why don't you shut up, Fitzell?
All right, disco fans. Yep, that's all for this episode. Thanks again. We'll catch you in the next one. Adios. Auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss.